Well, good morning, everybody. It has been a difficult time. We were struggling to figure out what's going on with YouTube Live. We could not figure that out, but I think we've got it going. So if you're out there on the wonderful world of YouTube and or Facebook, just let us know that you can see us, you can hear us, and then all those wonderful things that we do are being done. Besides that, we've got an interesting show going on today, how to cash flow from wholesaling. So we all know that the typical wholesale transaction, you go out there, you get a contract, you sell the contract, you get a beautiful payday, but from that point moving forward, you have to start the process again to go out and get another contract. Well, one of the beauties is there is a way that you can cash flow from wholesaling where you get a contract, you sell a contract, and from that day moving forward, you get a check every single month. So that is the wonderful topic we'll be discussing today here with Grant Kemp. And let's dive in on this, Grant. How are we going to cash flow from wholesaling, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that intro. I mean, that's the best way that you can possibly put it. Is what I'm trying to get to with the series right here is I'm trying to really hammer into the point for so many folks, and I actually want to see from y'all who are here talking to us at the moment. Tell me a little bit about you, right? Because here's what I'm going to guess a lot of people are in this situation of, and we're in this series of wholesaling and cash flowing and sub two and comparing all of them, that kind of stuff. 99% of the time, people have decided to get into wholesaling, and they've decided to get into wholesaling for various reasons. One being, hey, it's a good payday. One being, hey, I don't have the money to take down deals for myself. One being, the list goes on, right? There are reasons to get into wholesaling, and I love wholesaling. We wholesale today. We are still wholesaling. So this is unlike my stance that I take semi-strongly when I'm like, rentals are not what you think they are. Like, rental, bah humbug. Like, I have rentals. I think rentals are great. I just don't think that they are what people think that they are. And I don't encourage that people try to get into them as the first way to get into their real estate investing, because I don't think that it's going to give them the outcome that they desire. Similarly, wholesaling, I don't think gives you the outcome that you desire. I think that a lot of people have spent a lot of time processing and studying and figuring out how to wholesale well because of restrictions that may be self-imposed, that may be imaginary, and that may be real as to why you're not going to go into a more of a portfolioed state. So this series right now is to hopefully speak to you, wholesaler, person that is deciding to get into real estate, because what I hear 99.9% of the time when somebody asks me, hey, or when I ask them, hey, why are you getting into real estate? The answer always revolves around the word freedom. And as you saw in my episode last week, which I would really encourage you guys to go watch after this, is wholesaling is not freedom. Wholesaling is a job, right? And if you want freedom, then you have to start worrying about your recurring income, about your passive cash flow, and all those types of things. And for all the reasons that you decided to get into wholesaling, those reasons are perfect reasons to be in subject to owner financed wraparound mortgages. So last bit of intro here would be, it's super common, I know it, that when you see people talking on YouTube or Facebook or whatever about getting in, especially with owner financing or whatever, it goes both ways, owner financing, wholesaling, it's, hey, you can get in with no money and you don't have to have money, you can make millions, blah, 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 blah. But like most of the time, you learn later on down the road that guy's dad funded their first 100 deals, or like that guy's uncle gave them $1 million loan, or whatever that might be. And I want to speak to you, the folks watching this video who may have gotten into wholesaling or have already decided to get into owner financing, who have said, look, I am getting into these strategies because I fear that I don't have the capacity to get into more of a cash flowed long-term portfolio, because I was the guy that had no money that became a millionaire in 5 years. I am you. I am one of you. Like, I am you. I am that person that got into this and said, look, I don't have the cash to go out and get a loan from a bank. I quit my job when I was 25. I had $4,500 in the bank when I quit my job. And I took that, and instead of going down the road of wholesaling, I used all those same strategies to buy and portfolio properties. So let's do some comparisons today of what you may already know, right? I want you guys to tell me, have you studied into a transaction? Please comment. We're watching these comments. Tyrone, good to see you. What's up, man? Matthew, good to see you here. The MIP PMI recapture. Yeah, that's something we talk about that on the Monday night Q&As a lot. We can go over that, but that's not going to be the topic of conversation today. The thing that I want to go over is, what have you done? You who is watching today, what have you done to research into real estate? Has wholesaling been one of those big focuses for you? Have you been like, hey, I'm going to play around with these other things, but I'm going to have to wholesale to get some cash in the bank so that I can do something else? Lots of times I see wholesaling used as a stepping stone for people. And I also want to see, have you not gotten into deals and you really want to go down the owner financing route? I want to see, have you done a bunch of deals? How many deals have you done to this point? Because we can really tailor today's episode to you who is watching. So whoever speaks first and whoever speaks is going to be the one who gets the best education out of this, because I'm going to be able to help you get where you want to go. So go ahead and comment that, because I want to know where you're at. What have you studied? What have you done? How many deals have you done? What are you looking to get into? Because we can help you get to that next level. So before we get into that, Daniel, I'm going to ask you a question here. There is a word that gets thrown out a lot that I think gets thrown out incorrectly. And that word is passive income. So Daniel, I think you and I share a take on what passive means. Can you tell me a little bit about passive? What is passive? Does passive income exist?
Passive income is the unicorn where you get to put money somewhere and then disappear, and you come back a year later and it's doubled. That really is a unicorn. You might find some very rare opportunities, and I do mean rare opportunities, where you really do get a passive point, but I don't think that it truly even is that, because you still need to monitor it. You still need to, like, let's say you hand your money over to someone else, you still need to make sure they're managing your money properly. But when people talk about rental properties, oh, that's my passive income. You ask any landlord that's got 100 houses if it's passive, and they're gonna laugh you under the table. There's nothing passive about landlording. And even when it comes to notes and note servicing and everything else like that, you're gonna have varying levels of passivity. It's gonna be just like, all right, this one right here is super passive, and this one over here is nothing but impassive. So no such thing as passive income, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there. I think one of the big takeaway words that I want everybody to really latch onto that Daniel used right there is varying levels of passivity. Varying levels of passivity, right? There is no such thing as passive income. Passive income is a lie that has been told to you by people who want you to buy their course, or by people who want you to think that they are better at what they do than they are. Because the truth of the matter is, there is no such thing as passive. If there was the only thing that is passive, and I'm going to pull my gain down here. It looks like I just realized I'm clipping a lot, so I should be distorting. So hopefully it doesn't pull it down too much for you guys. But the only thing that is passive is, like, if you just stuck your money in a CD or a money market account or something like that, and yeah, that's passive. You don't have to do anything. You're going to just let your money sit there, and eventually you'll get money back. But what kind of returns are you going to get on a CD? Somebody tell me. Comment right here. Who can tell me what a CD or a mutual fund or something like that might be returning to you on something where you just truly get to put your money in there, and it's a government, or I said mutual fund, I'm sorry, I meant bond, like a bond or a CD or something. Like, what kind of return are you going to get?
We're going to get like what, 0.3 to 1% if you're lucky?
Yeah, point something, right? So that's what passivity gets you. So we have to understand and appreciate, and this also plays into, Joshua Logan says 1% as of today. This also plays into why we talk to private money lenders the way that we do, right? Because we have something. We have an asset that is worth money, okay? That's what wholesaling is. You found an asset that is worth buying for X amount of dollars, and you get it under contract for less, and then you find somebody who's willing to buy that from you, and you keep the difference. That's your assignment fee. Hey, I know that Grant will buy this thing at $80,000, so I'm going to get it under contract for $65,000. I'm going to reach out to Grant and say, hey, you good with this house at 80? And Grant's going to say, sure, I love that house at 80. And you're going to say, cool, I got it under contract for 65. Will you give me 15 grand and I will let you sit in my place in this contract? And I'm going to say, sure, it makes no difference to me. I'm paying 80 either way. Good for you. By the way, guys, real investors don't give a crap how much money you're making on your assignment fee. You can make $80,000 on your assignment fee of this $90,000 house. To me, that doesn't matter to me. If my numbers make sense, that's what matters, right? The people who don't want you to make a bunch of money on assignments, those drive me insane. Now, I don't want you to make $90,000 if you're also telling me I have to buy at 83 cents and there's no way down. Like, yeah, work with each other here. But that's it. You have an asset that is worth money. Well, what did you do to get that asset? Daniel, can you walk me through a little bit of the thought process? I'm sorry, not the thought process so much as the action process that it takes to get a wholesalable deal. What would be some steps that you have to take to get there?
So we're going to have to create some form of marketing. It could be varying levels of marketing, but I need to do something to let people know that I'm buying a house. I'm going to anticipate a conversation with this person where I'm going to have to determine the sales price of this property. I'm going to have to go through a contracting process to get the deal locked up. Once I've got it locked up, I'm going to have to submit it to title to get curative title work done. During that time, I'm going to need to market to find a buyer. And then from the point in time I've secured a buyer, I'm going to have to close that title out through transaction. I may have to get some sort of transactional funding put in place. I might be able to pull it down like that, but those are some of the basic processes. I probably missed a few here and there, but that's the basic process.
That's all I was looking for. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? These are some basic things. You gotta market, you gotta find an asset, you gotta get it contracted, you gotta get it at a good price, and then you close on that deal, right? The thing that you've got to remember is everybody else who has cash that's really good at being an engineer, that's really good at being whatever their 9-to-5 is, and they might have a 401k, they might have an IRA. Well, their options are put it in the stock market, maybe lose everything, maybe put it in a CD and make 1%. So appreciate the fact that you have something because you took actions. You marketed, you negotiated, you got a thing under contract, and that's not something that everybody can do. That's the hard part. But the beautiful thing about this is that it's the same if you wholesale it or if you sub to it. You've got to do those same things. So by wholesaling these deals out, what you're doing is you're doing all of the hard work and getting some of the great outcome, okay? So again, I want to reiterate, I love wholesaling. I think it's a phenomenal strategy that we still employ today. I think that a lot of people do need wholesaling to start off with because it does put capital into your bank account. However, what I wanted to go through today is I wanted to walk you through some comparison between these two strategies of wholesaling, which we kind of talked about a second ago, and a subject to wraparound mortgage. So Daniel, would you please explain to me what a subject to wraparound mortgage, how that's like what is that? When I say sub to wrap, what does that mean?
I might actually be able to answer this question. I feel quite special today. Well, buying a property subject to, that's an acquisition strategy. So for everybody that's listening, subject to is an acquisition strategy, and that's when you purchase a property with an underlying lien in place. Now, typically the underlying lien in place that we're going to be taking over is going to be the first mortgage. So we're going to purchase this property subject to the first mortgage, which means we take ownership of the house, but the loan stays in the seller's name. Now that we own this property subject to the existing mortgage, and we're making payments on the seller's behalf moving forward. The way we're going to dispose this property, the way we're going to get rid of it, is we're going to sell this property with a wrap mortgage. Now, there's a big difference between a wrap mortgage and subject to. Some people look at the two as synonymous. They are not. A wrap mortgage is where I create a new mortgage. So this will have a second position mortgage, and the second position mortgage will be with the new buyer and myself. I will set the interest rate, I'll set the terms of the repayment, and then I will collect payments from my end buyer in the form of a down payment and monthly household payments or monthly house payments, and I will keep the difference between that payment and the subject to payment that I have, and that's how I will cash flow off of a subject to wrap.
You're absolutely right, yeah. And I'm so glad that you walked through that. And guys, if you have any confusion on that, go to propelio.com/academy. That has, I mean, literally, you can. So for instance, Josh Dees is one of our shining examples, right? Like Josh Dees, you may know him from the Propelio community. He got started in the Propelio community. He started watching videos. He went to the Propelio Academy, watched our videos. He took down like 5 or 6 or 7 deals with some of the most complicated owner financing strategies you can think of, just from watching my portion on subject to wraps in the Academy. So we're not going to spend a lot of time explaining the strategy today because you don't have to know the strategy. If you're watching right now and you're like, I don't really understand sub to wraps, don't click pause, don't move away. Like, you don't need to know that, okay? You need to know what Daniel just kind of told you is it's an option to have some long-term income, but you don't have to understand everything about it. What I would encourage you to do, finish watching this out. We're going to be talking theory a lot today, and it's going to open your eyes to a lot of really cool opportunities for you. And when you see, I'm not saying it, but when you see that owner financing is going to be that way, where you're like, holy crap, I didn't realize this was an option for me. I didn't realize that real money was an option here. I thought I had to be a wholesaler. Then go to propelio.com/academy, put your email address in. That's all it takes. We don't spam. Propelio's not going to spam you. You're not going to get anything crazy from it. It's just we need to get that login for you so you can be tracked for your progress and everything, so you know where you're at. And go check out my sub 2 reps because it is a full-blown from start to finish education on how to do owner financing, sub 2 reps, free and clear, all that kind of stuff. I did want to give a quick shout out to Donovan Rashad. He said he's closing 2 next week. That's freaking awesome, man. Ken says that we've opened his eyes. Peter says, you know, the stuff that we provided changed his life. That is the coolest thing that I ever have heard in my life, Daniel. I just think that it's so cool to see people in the community getting their lives changed and being able to make something different there. And then the one that I want to highlight over there is Ken Fulton. Man, this is exactly, I'm talking to you, man. I'm talking to everybody who aligns with this. Ken says, I thought that wholesaling was the only way with no money. And again, you know, I showed this. I will continue to show this until everybody gets tired of it, because I don't clean my office up as much as I should. And so I know that it's sitting over here, but this is my check. I said $4,500. This is the check I quit my job with. $4,154.57. This was what I had to live on. And I had to make this deal work in 6 months or else. And I had no family money. I had no connections to lenders. I had zero connections in real estate even. Literally no one in my family was in real estate. Literally no one in my family was lending. The first time I got money borrowed from a family or friend was my 100-and-somethingth deal, right? $4,000, and I was a millionaire in 5 years. Can you have the ability to do that? Everyone, if you're watching me and you thought you had to be a wholesaler, you don't. And you need to be screaming this from the mountaintops so that you can help pull other people up and let other people know what true freedom is, and let other people know how to find that passivity. So let's talk about the comparison between these two strategies real quick, okay? Daniel absolutely got it right. You've got some very specific things that happen regardless. They are not a variable. There is not a variable in finding the situation where you contract a house. You have to send some sort of marketing, whether that is direct mail or cold calling or FCC compliant text messaging or whatever that might be, maybe JV partnerships, right? Like, that's a valid way to do deals. By the way, I do JVs. If you've got deals on the table and you don't know what to do with them and you thought you had to be a wholesaler, take a page out of the book of a lot of what the other people are doing. Like Santiago is one of our community members here. He saw Grant teach me something. He sent us like 22 deals. I think we closed like 8 of them with him, right? We just did a deal analysis of that 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's making a few $100s a month off of a deal that was trash. So if you've got a deal that you think might be right, go to creativecashflow.com/JV with me, and we'll do a deal with you. See, and what I've just done is marketing. That is marketing. I am looking for deals, and that's a way. So you can do that same thing on Facebook groups. Once you get the knowledge, leverage your knowledge. So you got to market. You got to get in front of people that can say yes to a piece of paper that makes you money. That is the only thing that matters right now. If you don't have leads and you are not closing deals, the thing that matters is not your website. It is not your business cards. It is not knowing what to do if the due on sale clause gets called. It is getting in front of a human being, whether that be on the phone or in person, that has the ability to say yes and sign a piece of paper that makes you money. That's what matters. So get there. Now let's compare what we do from then. Okay, so I'm going to zoom into this really quick so as not to give up my, or maybe I'm not going to be able to block that out. Whatever. Not a big deal. Let me do, actually, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get schmancy in a very ghetto kind of way, and I want to block out the right side of this graph for you so that we're not looking at it yet. So what I'm going to go through first is the process of wholesaling. Okay, what is the process of wholesaling? Well, if you look at wholesaling, your first step is to contract the deal. And you're going to have a contract date at that point in time, right? This is your execution date. Now, right now, my company is doing 90-day option periods on all of our acquisitions. Right now is the time to be practicing getting those long option periods, because with coronavirus, it makes it a lot easier to ask for a longer option period. An option period, I get this question a lot. Hey, what's an option contract? What's an option period? Daniel, just real quickly, I know we talked about it last week, but real quickly, can you just go over again, what is an option contract and what is an option period?
Option contract is where you have a purchase agreement that also has an option to exit the contract. Oops, I'm missing, wrong one. There we go. Right cameras. I got the cameras right now. All right, so an option contract is a purchase agreement that has the option for the buyer to back out during a specific amount of time with no specified reason. It's like, I've got 5 days to back out of this contract if I don't like the house, if I don't like this, I don't like that. So that's an option contract. Option period is that part of the contract. Now, if you're referring to an option, there is a way of just setting up saying, I have the option to buy your house for the next year. Like, you've got an option section of a contract, and then you've got an option. I don't know how you say that, Grant. Like, you can go out and buy options without really a contract. It's like, I want the option to buy your house for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. I
that.
think that is something to understand with context whenever you're addressing a different strategy of some sort. But today, if we can, let's not focus too much on that, because I don't want to get people too deep down the well. Right? Let's just kind of talk about the simplicity side of it. Keep it as simple as possible. Where in your purchase contract, people will also ask me, "Hey, what does an option contract look like?" It is your purchase agreement. It's the normal purchase contract you would make. Just in there, you've got an inspection period that allows you to back out. So Daniel, is the buyer in an option contract obligated to buy that house?
During the option period, no. They have the full rights to walk away.
And that's one of the reasons. Obligated to sell the house?
The seller is obligated to sell the house. They can't contract with somebody else. They can't walk off and go somewhere else. They have to sell you the house if you want to. But during that option period, you have the option to walk away if you don't like the deal.
Right. And that is the beauty of wholesaling. That is what everybody is latched onto with wholesaling, is that it is, go back to last week's lesson that we talked about, where it's like, hey, it's low risk if you do it right. You can get in there, you can see if it's going to work for you or not, and you can kind of back out of it if you need to. So wholesaling is predicated on this foundation of the option contract. It is all based upon, hey, I'm going to get it under contract for something that I'm pretty sure I can sell. I'm going to go try to sell it. And if it doesn't sell, I'm going to cancel the contract, and I'm not out any money. I only have upside. I only have the potential to make money. And that is why, most likely, you who have said to yourself, hey, I'm going to be a wholesaler, got into it. So let's look at those steps. Once you do get that thing under contract, what do you do from there? Well, at that point in time, your first step is the contract date, right? You get it contracted and hey, August 1st, we got this deal contracted. You're going to get an option period. Like I said, my option periods on our contracts right now are for 90 days. So we've got a 3-month time frame to go find us a buyer. There is a lot of mental limiting belief in the real estate industry, okay? Option contracts tend to be one of those. How long you can get that option for. Daniel just mentioned getting a 2-year option period, right? Like, those are available to you. If you make something make sense for somebody, everything is available. So I want to reiterate, hey, we're getting 90-day options. That may be really big compared to what you're used to getting, but you are the reason you're not getting it. If you not always, I'm speaking in definites when everything is always it depends, but most of the time you are the reason you're not getting that bigger thing. So for the same reason I don't like hiring within the industry is because we run a 5-minute mile. You've heard the story about, hey, nobody would run a 10-minute mile. One guy ran the 10-minute mile. Then like 1 million people ran the 10-minute mile within the next year. We run a 5-minute mile. So I don't want those limiting beliefs. I hire from outside of the industry so that people don't know that. And I want you to check yourself on your own limiting beliefs. If you see me say something like, get it contracted, go for a 90-day option period, and that twinge in your heart or gut comes in, you're like, yeah, right, that's cool for him. Maybe he's a great negotiator. I'm not going to get it. I'll shoot for a 2-week. I think I can get a 2-week. I can get a 3-week. That's your own limiting belief that is the reason why I don't hire within the industry. So you need to check yourself on that, remove your own limiting beliefs, and open up your possibilities to what you can actually do to bring that fortune into your company and that wealth into your life that allows you to have the freedom that you're actually looking for. Because right now, if you don't check yourself on your own limiting beliefs that told you had to be a wholesaler, it's gonna be very challenging for you to check yourself in the limiting belief that says, yeah, I don't have any money and I'm gonna go build $1 million portfolio out of that and I'm gonna be a millionaire in 5 years, right? That's not an option. That's not a variable. You are going to make this work and you can make it work. And I've done it and I'm here to teach you how to do that, right? So here's your wholesaling steps. Step 1, contract the deal. We're going to say it's a 90-day option period. So we get it contracted on August 1st. And so that means you've got August, September, October, November, right, to close the deal. Then step 2 is marketing for buyer, phase 1. Now, what I put as phase 1 here, and this is a best practice that I want everybody to take away from this, even if you're going to stick with wholesaling, I want you to take this best practice from us, is that you should market for your buyer for the first half of the option period with a set standard of how you're marketing. I'm going to market at this price. I'm going to market with this way, blah, 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 blah. You can market different channels, but know your price, know what you're going to accept. After half of your option period is up, and notice I didn't say 45 days because, hey, I get it. Sometimes you're going to have to do a 30-day option. Maybe you have to do a 1-week option. That's going to happen. I get it. But for half of that option period, you're going to be marketing for your buyer and you're going to look at what is the response I'm getting from these potential buyers. Step 3 is you need to have an evaluation meeting. If you have not gotten that house contracted for sale within your first half of the option period, you need to have a meeting about that deal. Now, what I've put here in this parentheses for you is that it's an ops and sales manager meeting. In other words, your operations manager and your sales manager need to get together and decide if something needs to change. The reason why I put that, I want to be very clear that, look, I get it. At the beginning, you can't afford employees, right? That's the whole thing. But we should always be having our mind set towards our end goal. If you don't have a compass in your ship, you're going to have the most beautifully clean deck and the most wonderfully, closing doors and whatever it might be and spotless windows. But that's how you end up in America calling people Indians. You've got to have a compass on your boat. You've got to know where you're headed. And if you're headed for freedom, which is the word I hear from so many of you, then you need to be headed for, I'm going to build my company as though I'm going to sell it, even though I'm not necessarily going to sell it. Because if you do not find a way to fire yourself from different pieces of this operation, you will never find freedom. Okay? The goal needs for you to be replaceable. People often think everyone's replaceable except for me. And Matt Aycock gave a great speech to our creative executives at the last mastermind about scaling his business. One of the best business speeches I've ever seen, frankly. And one of the things that he was talking about in there is everybody is replaceable in your company, especially you. You have to be replaceable. If you want freedom, and that's why you're doing this, you have to replace yourself. My first and best manager I ever had, that was one of the biggest skills he taught me in working a normal job. Was he taught me very early on. I was very blessed that in my first 6 months of employment, I had a manager that drilled it into me. You will never be promoted unless you have somebody to replace you. That's a huge mindset shift, right? You can never be promoted until somebody can replace you. Oftentimes we find ourselves working so hard to ensure that we are showing our value and inserting that it has to be me here. But if instead you can shift your mindset to say, well, let me start grooming this person that I had answering the phones and that's all they were doing. Let me see if I can get them trained up on something else that might remove something from me so I can be promoted. Traction calls this delegate and elevate, right? Delegate the job and elevate in the company. So I'm putting here ops and sales manager in parentheses because I want you guys to remember that this should not be you in this evaluation meeting eventually. Your operations manager, in our opinion, the way that we run things, your operations manager is the one that does the underwriting of the deal. Daniel, what do I mean when I say underwriting a deal on the acquisition side particularly? You're going to underwrite a deal. What is involved in that?
So underwriting a deal is a vocabulary that was new to me, a couple years back. I'd stand around and I'd hear people say, oh, did you underwrite the deal? And I was like, what are they talking about? Underwriting a deal means you're essentially just doing your due diligence. You're going through, you're figuring out what is the potential sales price of the property? What is the repairs going to be? What's the exit strategy going to look like? What's the chances that I'm going to lose money on this deal? And you formulate your best case scenarios, your worst case scenarios, and your most probable scenarios, and you give it the go, no go thought process. So that's essentially underwriting a deal. It's, it can
Absolutely.
be extremely complex. It can be extremely straightforward, but it's basically doing your due diligence.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great way of rephrasing it. It's just due diligence, right? And you're going to underwrite your deals on your acquisition. And then when we get over into the owner financed exits, you got to underwrite your deal on the disposition, right? If you've got a buyer who wants to buy the house from you and get a mortgage from you, you got to look at them and say, hey, do I think that this person can afford this house? Whereas on the acquisition, hey, do I think this is a good deal? I want your ops manager to be the one that's doing that, because if your sales manager or your sales team is doing that, well, they're commission based, right? So they're going to shoehorn things into making a deal work, whereas your ops manager typically is not going to be commission based. They're going to be typically a salaried position, and their job is to look at things not as a salesperson, but as a pure pragmatic, quantitative, do the numbers work or not. So right now at the beginning, it's just going to be you. You are in the seat of all of these roles for your company. And that's good. That's how you start. I didn't get to hire an employee for a year and a half or so. You got to do it all on your own at the beginning. That's good. That's part of it. But be shooting for your freedom. If you want freedom, this is freedom. Freedom is not, I'm going to do this forever and ever and not have an exit. Freedom is, I'm going to do this until I can. And this is where I'm trying to get you on that. So right now you got to evaluate. Okay, halfway into the, and by the way, I don't think I got answers from that. How many deals have you guys done? I want to know, how many deals have you guys closed? Is it in the, you're looking for your first deal? Is it, I've closed under 10, I've closed under 50, I've closed under 100? Those are typically the three marks I'd like to see from you. So please comment. I want to know, so we're talking to you specifically. So you're going to evaluate. Well, what does that evaluation look like? Okay, that's the next question. If I'm going to evaluate a deal and see, hey, I've marketed it. I've marketed this deal for a buyer. And remember, we're still on the wholesale side. And I've done this for 45 days. Okay, and I'm just not seeing traction. Now, of course, you can make this shift a little bit earlier if you would desire, but I think one of the big important things that I can give as a takeaway here is to stick to it, man. A lot of things don't work as soon as you thought they should, but they definitely work. And I think that it's a mistake a lot of times how quickly I see people move away from a strategy or a believing in themselves in one way or another, right? Like give everything its due time. And I qualify that as half of the option period. So then whenever you have that meeting with yourself, or you're training your acquisitions/dispositions manager to have that meeting, sales manager to have that meeting for you, this is what I want you to look at. Okay, so one of the things that our creative executives group gets is I give them a full-blown flowchart of exactly what this business looks like, right? And we're working on this still for our own organization to make it work, but this is what this business looks like, right? And all of these swim lanes are a different role in the company: CMO, system, admin, acquisitions manager, field ops manager, ops manager. When we get to the deal, or when we get to the situation, let's say that I'm going to owner finance this deal. Oh no, let's say we're wholesaling, because that's what we're talking about, right? So we're going to wholesale this deal. Well, at the same time, we're going to send this contract to title or to our transaction coordinator to get this done. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen with that. Similarly, we're going to go down our dispositions route of marketing this thing for sale. Well, here you see, even in our organization, market for buyer phase 1. What we always call it is the deal within striking distance. If it is within striking distance, what that means is we've come to an agreement that makes sense for us and the other party that we can actually contract this deal under. And then at that point in time, boom, we prep the contract, we send it over to our sales management, have the dispo manager send that prepped contract over to the sales manager so that they can take a look at it and see if it's good. And if it's good, get the contracted property, move it up to your TC and close. But let's talk about what we're talking about here. We've marketed it for phase 1, and we were unable to find a buyer. We do not have it in striking distance. This is where your ops and sales managers need to have a meeting. And I'm going to walk you through this very quickly. The creative accelerators and creative executives group, we are going through this with a fine-tooth comb right now. This is what our first hour of the Thursday deal analysis looks like, is we're going through every piece and really teaching on that. But this is what the general rule of doing these types of meetings, I think, /we think, should be. Your ops and sales management need to meet. Now, right now, that might be you. These are the questions you need to ask yourself. Are we pleased with the dispositions team's efforts so far? Well, if no, we need to adjust our sales efforts, right? Should that fix the problem? Yes. Okay, sweet. Then we're going to move back into market for buyer phase 2. But if we need to keep asking ourselves questions, is this being marketed with another strategy? Because oftentimes my operation, we may throw something out where it's like, look, we'll accept a wholesale offer here. We'll accept or like a cash offer at this number, or we'll accept an owner financed offer with these numbers, right? So sometimes we'll not do that. It says, hey, I only want an owner finance, or I only want to market this one with owner financing, right? Or I only want to market this one with wholesaling. So we're marketing wholesaling. Yeah, we're pretty pleased with what our dispo team has done. No, we are not marketing with another strategy yet. Or yes, we're marketing with another strategy, and the question becomes, is that other strategy getting great traction? Because look, if you're marketing 2 different strategies and you're wholesale, you don't get a buyer, but your owner finance, like, dude, you're getting bites left, right, and center. Well, if that's getting another strategy, then, or if your other strategy is getting a lot of traction, then you ask yourself, should I just keep it as is and we'll just plan on having that other strategy be the one that hits? And if we get a wholesale offer at this, then cool, right? But either way, we can end up here on the next question. Is this marketed with another strategy? Let's say no. Okay, well, first of all, you got to ask yourself, are we overpriced? Did I push this out? It's been half of my option period. Did I push this out at a price that nobody wants? because you might have two different things happening here. One thing may be, yeah, you're getting a lot of nibbles and everybody's cool with the price, but you've had a lot of people who are just flaky and they fell out. You've got a bad buyers list for your wholesale buyers, right? But another thing might be either A, nobody's called you, or B, everyone that's coming in is like, dude, there's no way I can do 80. I can do 60. And you're like, bro, I got it contracted to 60. I can't do that, right? So you might have to renegotiate. Should you lower your low or renegotiate the acquisition? Now, my executives and accelerators will understand what I mean by lower our low, but I'm not going to go into that today for the purpose of time. So you ask yourself, am I overpriced? Okay, if I am overpriced, do I need to renegotiate my acquisition to get this sold, or do I need to lower my listing price? And then you can ask yourself, okay, if all of that is, hey, am I overpriced? Yes. Should I lower or renegotiate? No. Or am I overpriced? No, I'm not overpriced. I'm right where I should be. Then the question becomes, is there another strategy I should be marketing this as? Right? So then if so, I need to set the guidelines and go from there. When I mean another strategy, what I mean by that is, okay, again, I don't want to spend too much time here, but part of the beauty of what I'm trying to do here and teaching you all the ins and outs of owner financing and wholesaling is that you can combine the two into phenomenal deals. When this series is done here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a deal analysis with you guys that's going to show you a deal that's been done in a way that I don't think you will have ever seen somebody else do a deal like this, because we truly combined wholesaling strategies and owner financing strategies because we truly understood them to the level I'm teaching you here. And we ended up walking away with like $49,000 cash up front, and I think $300 or so a month in cash flow, and maybe $5 or $10 worth of equity, but super low risk on a commercial sale, right? So when I say, is there another strategy? It's like, dude, look, do I need to get creative within how I'm marketing my wholesale deal? And now I need to open up, maybe I should take out an ad in the newspaper. I'm not suggesting that you do that versus, the Facebook ads that I've been doing. And if no, then you start looking at, okay, well, shoot, it's not selling as a wholesale deal, so should I look at it as an owner financed deal, right? I know this is highly detailed here, but the beauty of video is that you get to rewind. And I want you guys to be able to learn that process because this will save you a lot of time. And like I said, my executives and accelerators, we're going over this in a fine-tooth comb right now, but that's what that looks like. And I want you guys to notice something. I just took you there from the wholesale exit strategy. Check this out. This is my owner financed strategy exit. In the owner financed exit, check out what we do. We start in our dispositions manager where we are marketing the first marketing you see is market for buyer phase 1. Is the deal in striking distance? No. Well, guess what? That ops and sales manager, that's the same exact process. It's literally a tab in my flowcharts that I've created that is pointed to from wholesaling exit and owner financing exit. The same exact process.
Can I hop in here for just a second?
Yeah, please do.
I think that one of the things that I want to point out, and I don't necessarily know that it has been pointed out, is Grant mentioned something earlier, and I think it's a very fine point that all of y'all should walk away from this show with. If you walk away with nothing other than this, it is you should build yourself into a replaceable position inside of your company. And everything that Grant is going through up there on that screen, within reason, I pretty much know. But I've never documented it at a fashion that Grant has. I never really built my position, my business in a position where I could just walk away from it. All of that knowledge was there, but it was stored in my head. And one of the things that you've seen Grant do is take all of those thought processes that Grant does in his own mind and put it into a process chart. That lucid chart that he just had up there goes through all of the things that Grant's going to go through. That's Grant's brain right there on a piece of paper. Well, what Grant has done is taken that piece of paper and allowed someone else to look at it, and they essentially get to look at Grant's brain, okay? And then they're like, okay, how's Grant going to look at this? And bam, there's a question and answer path right there that gets it answered. If you want to build your business in such a way that allows you to escape from the 9 to 5 of running your business, you have to create stuff like what Grant has there. And I really want to point out how much time Grant has invested into those types of things. And you too should, if you plan on growing. Like, now, is day one before you've ever even done a deal, is that right there going to be your priority number one? In my opinion, no. But once you've gotten down 5 to 10 deals and you're looking to start hiring somebody, you need those processes in place to make your life a little more doable. And that's just what I wanted to point out before I hopped off.
Yeah, thank you so much for pointing that out, because again, our job here is to train you guys how to get to your goal. The problem is that people say my goal is freedom, but then they go down the road of high-paying job. So even though this is not necessary, I'm not necessarily talking, Well, I really am talking about this process here and comparing those two things. I want you guys to pick up on what he's saying right there. You've got to make yourself replaceable. And this flow chart that I'm going through, you're absolutely right. That was the point. Is like, look, everything is binary. Everything comes down to one decision. Even if there's 5 options, you say, is this one or this one better? Okay, that one was. Okay, is this one or this one better? Okay, that one was, right? Always is binary. So what we've done, I've got about 200 hours worth of work hours into this flow chart as is. We've probably got another 125 hours ahead of us to finish out, because for our executives and accelerators, we give them this chart. That is one of the things that you get as an executive and an accelerator, right? So those are the members of our mastermind here. And within each of these little dots, not to make the, I mean, I'm not trying to be pitchy here, but within each of these little things, we have a Google Doc where it will have the bullet points of every single item that you have to do within those, right? It is important to know what is going on and what you're doing on this. So thank you for pointing that out, because if you do not work towards replacing yourself, you will not get replaced. A ship with no compass ends up nowhere. So I want to point out and give big props to like Matt Smith. He says he's done under 50, but that means he's done over 10. And he's been with us probably since day one. He's one of our OGs in the Grant Teach Me Something realm. So I know he's been able to close a bunch of deals. If we got a lot of people looking at their first deal, a lot of people under 5, Glenn Keith at 15 deals, Santiago Luna, he says he's closed 6 with us, and the 7th is under contract right now under that JV. Again, that's creativecashflow.com/JV with me. And then like Tasha's looking for her first deal. Peter's closing 3 this month and adding $2,100 to Cashflow. Dude, that's freaking awesome, man. That's so cool. So again, to kind of pull back, we want to be looking at the process of buying wholesale. And we want to compare that process to buying and selling with a sub-2 rep and seeing what does that eventually do for me. So we were at the evaluation meeting. We're looking on step 3. Hey, I've marketed this for half of my option period. Now I need to determine, what am I doing? I'm adjusting my dispo strategy. I'm renegotiating my acquisition. I'm, all those things that I just walked you down. And then step 4 is market for buyer phase 2. And I say market for buyer phase 2 goes through 48 hours before the closing date, because typically your closing and option date are going to be at the same day, right? We are going to have a closing date of October 6th, and my option day goes my option period goes all the way to October 6th. 2 days before that, I want you to have decided, what are you doing? Go to step 5. If no buyer is found, then you either need to amend that contract to extend that contract period out, that option period out, or you need to cancel the contract. I didn't find a way to make money on this, therefore I'm not going to do the deal, okay? Step 5B is, what if you did find a buyer? Then you go to your double closing. I say double closing here in quotation marks because there's different definitions of that, some of which are illegal, others which are legal. I'm just going to say double closing. We're not, that's not the topic of today's conversation, but what it means is if you're like wholesaling on a deal, instead of just assigning the contract over, one of the things that you can do is actually close on the deal and then 14 minutes later, sell the deal, right? That's how you would handle a double closing. Now, here's the thing that I wanted to hold back the reveal on. Look at the sub-2 wrap and show me where it's different. It's not. When you contract a deal subject to that you want to wrap, you're doing the same thing that you already have learned how to do with wholesaling, but you have a mental limiting belief that says, I cannot create a portfolio yet because I don't have money. Therefore, I'm not even going to look at portfolioed cash flowing strategies because I'm not quite there yet in my career. Guess what, buddy? You're quite there yet in your career. You are ready to go with this, right? Look at our video from last week. If you want to compare just strategically, wholesale has pros, right? Pros and cons, right? Wholesale has some pros over sub-2 reps. Sub-2 has a lot of pros over wholesaling. There are situations where you might do one or the other. One of the best advices that I think that I can give to people who are starting out, talking to those of you who have done under 10 deals, who are looking for your first deal, even if you've done under 50, I think that doesn't really start shifting out until you've done 75, 100, maybe 150, to where you're just, your staff is paid for, you're getting a salary that's a good salary, everybody's making money off of your cash flow. Then it's kind of a different situation. But until then, look, if you look at your minimum expenses that it takes to live per month, and I really encourage you to look at that, right? What is that dollar? I'll tell you right now, when I want to invest in the company and I want to grow and I need to pour money back into the company, I go down to a $60,000 salary. At 60 grand, that's enough for because my wife still works. She's, she's making money, right? We get our insurance taken care of there. But if I make 60, that puts us at a place where you're comfortable. I can take her on a date. We go every Friday. We eat a lot of sushi, and we don't care what the price is. I don't look at the right side of the menu kind of thing. But when we're in that stage of, okay, I'm ready to, it's not just dig, shovel, and pour money back in, then we can step into those six-figured salaries that you're looking for. You get there later. Right now, you need to know what your minimum expenses are to live, because you've got to pay yourself that. And I consider minimum expense taking your significant other out on a date every so once in a while, going to the movies. That is a minimum piece. You should not be doing real estate if you can't afford to enjoy your life somehow. Yes, we're going to be putting a lot in now, but if you don't do it a lot, or if you don't do something for yourself now, you will burn out and you will not enjoy this business. Give yourself little rewards here and there, okay? So understand what that is. And one of the pieces of advice, and Daniel, I'd like to know what your input is on this. When you've got both options, wholesaling and sub 2, which I want you guys to have, bat belt, right? This tool for this deal, this tool for that deal. One of the things I say is, okay, well, what are your minimum expenses? You want to send out $5,000 worth of marketing. You need to make $5,000 yourself, and you've got $2,000 worth of staff on hand. So you've got $12,000 a month that needs to be covered. One option that I throw out to people is, okay, wholesale until you get $12,000 in the bank account that month, and then switch over to sub 2 wrapping everything that you can past that. When you're getting started, yeah, get your cash in the bank, but it's not, I think it's the same exact thought process that so many of you used. I'm going to use wholesaling as a stepping stone to get to portfolio, but you think of it, I bet, and I want you to comment here. Let me know if I'm hitting the nail on the head or not. People think I'm going to use the wholesaling as a stepping stone, which means that for the next 6 months or year, I'm going to wholesale. Then I can look at doing portfolio. When I'm saying the same exact thing, it's just, hey, use this as a stepping stone. And in your first week or so of the month, you should get a deal taken down that covers your monthly expenses. That was your stepping stone. Now spend the rest of the month dealing with getting something into your portfolio. Hey, if you take a deal down in your first 2 weeks that covers your monthly expenses for 3 months, sweet. Put that in the bank, cover your monthly expenses for 3 months, and then focus on your portfolio for the next 3 months. Daniel, how do you feel about when I say that?
I know that when I got started, I thought that cash flow was the most ridiculous thing ever. And I've said that more than once. Like, I saw no value in foregoing a $40,000 paycheck versus a $300 a month in cash flow until the market shifted and I started feeling the pinch of not finding as many of those $40,000 deals anymore. And the fat bank account that I had built started getting a little slimmer because there was no cash flow. I was 100% dependent on finding that next paycheck. So cash flow is by all means a requirement in this business, in my opinion. Like, you really need both to sustain longevity, and being in the right market and understanding which one's going to work best in that market, I think is wise. But you need cash flow. And if you don't think you need it right now, come back to me in 10 years and let me know what your thoughts are. But cash flow is incredible and you need it, in my opinion. So always focus on finding both.
Yep. Yeah, and that made me survive. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. The shift to a good market in 2015 first quarter was really rough for me, because I learned how to do the business in a down economy like what we're headed into now, which is one of the big reasons it's so important to get into the sub 2 owner financing side of things. And when the market shifted overnight, we went from days on market of 6 months to days of market to 7 to 14 days. Like, it took me a couple of quarters to figure out how the heck to make money in the business anymore. Because all of a sudden, everyone had equity and had 19 wholesalers knocking their door down, ready to pay off their loan and give them cash. And I didn't know how to do that yet, right? But the fact that I had set up cash flow meant that it could take me 6 months to figure out. And then guess what? Was it 16 or 17? I took 6 months off. I didn't show up to the office for 6 months because I was kind of tired. So I just didn't, you know what I mean? Like, that's what cash flow does for you, right? Cash flow also last year, I think a big thing for you guys to have in your mind is, what's your number? What's the number? Like, where are you going to allow yourself to retire, right? It doesn't mean you're going to retire, but how much money do you need to be making a month to allow yourself to retire? Because then at the moment you stop enjoying this, you can back out and be done. Be working towards a goal. Last year, I almost did. I almost retired, Q1, Q2, I guess it was Q2 of last year. I looked at the situations as things were, and I know what it would take to get where I was wanting to go. And prayed about it a lot and talked about it with my wife. And it was almost like, look, I'm just going to shut it down and we'll pay off the house and we'll just be retired and we'll make this money. But that was not where I felt like I was supposed to be. And I feel like the skills, you know, and not to get preachy, but like, I feel like God's given me some gifts to make a lot of money that I shouldn't be retiring at 33. Like, I've got working years ahead of me. I should be working through these next 7 or 8 years, making that money and then just giving it away, right? Like that. So now I'm re-energized. We've got reasoning. But again, the point is have that number. Cash flow is king. Cash flow is the thing that allows you to exit this. Question from Joshua Logan and Jason Lombardi came in of, can we download the Flowchart? If you are a Creative Executives member or a Creative Accelerator member, you get this Flowchart, right? You even get a link to that Flowchart that I am actively working on. It's not even to download. So as my company shifts the strategies, the executives see that shift in their link. So if you're interested in moving up to like a little bit more of a hand holding, a little bit more of a business in a box strategy and approach to doing this stuff, you can check it out, creativecashflow.com/memberships. Hit and apply on that. I think I saw Kang on here. We're looking at doing an executives interview with him on Friday, right? So I would love to have you guys in there, especially those of you like the two that asked this. You know, y'all been around for a while. So here's what I want to do to land the plane. I want to ask a question to you guys, okay? How many in your mind, I want to know, and we're on a delay, so I probably won't be able to address too much of this because we want to get out of here in the next few minutes, but how many deals do you guys think that you have to do a year, okay, to get to the point that you want to get to, which whatever that is, because everybody has their own goals, everybody has their own views, right? How many deals per year do you think that you're going to need to take down to get to that point that is your ultimate goal? And I want you to comment that. How many deals per year? Please put that in the comments. We want to read some of those out, because here's what the lie has been, okay? And I want to address this while I'm waiting on your numbers to come in. Here's the thing. For so long, we've all been told, hey, real estate is the way to go. You should exit the rat race and get into real estate to make your real money, right? So then you started researching, you started Googling, you started looking at the people on YouTube, the Facebook info marketers, all that kind of stuff, seeing what you could do. And you found this path, right? And the example I used last week is that of the Odyssey. You get on your ship, you're on sail to Freedom Island, and on the way there, you hear this song that says, and you can make $15,000, and it's not really that hard. And everybody's like, Arr! And you shoot over to that work island, and you land on Work Island, and you do wholesaling, and you have Job Island now, right? But the crazy thing is that everybody's super confident about what happened to get them there, right? And what you see, especially a lot of the loud Facebookers and a lot of the loud YouTubers and all that kind of thing, is they start preaching this number of 50 deals a year and 60 deals a year to be a real investor. And I'm actually impressed and glad to see most of you. I'm getting Ken says 15, Joshua says 20. Mark 12 to 15. Dick Daly is one of our executive members, and so he has 41, and he knows that number because my executive members, we do a one-on-one class, and we go through what that number really has to be. So, and Matt, you hit the nail on the head. That's where I'm going. He says 50 for the portfolio. So everybody hears this number, and they get this feeling from Facebook that you've got to do 60 deals a year to be a real investor, right? But it's 60 wholesale deals. And what I want to show you guys here is a comparison of what does 60 deals look like if you do 60 wholesale deals versus if you do 60 deals as a sub-2 and wrap transaction. And check this out. What you see here is on the left side, if you wholesale 60 deals and you average $15,000 per assignment gross, that means you're going to get $900,000 that year in gross revenue. Daniel, can you tell me the difference between gross and net?
Gross is the fancy, flashy number. The net is the negative you get at the end of the year when you didn't do your business right.
It's an amazing definition.
Would you like me to break it down further from there? So gross is all of the income you bring in. Net is what's left over after your expenses.
Yeah, this is why I love the pictures of checks that people put on Facebook, right? Even the HUD, the HUD doesn't show your internal expenses, but they trick you, right? You've been tricked. You've been tricked into this idea of exit the rat race and get into wholesaling, and now you've found freedom. That's the dream, right? I'm dreaming of what's coming forward, and you're living the dream because you're door knocking and you're sending out mailers and you're talking to people and all that kind of stuff. You're living the dream. I'm not working for the man anymore. But guys, what you don't realize is that you're still one level away from what you actually wanted to do. See, the people that get on with creative cash flow, we kind of have this similar mentality. And the people who look at owner financing, we kind of have this similar mentality where, yeah, you exited the rat race and then you're side by side with all these other rats that are shooting for the cheese at the end of the maze, all these wholesalers, all these people following the info marketers and the Lamborghinis and stuff like that. And there's people getting cheese, right? Gross cheese, right? They're showing you the check, but they're not showing you that they held that property for way too long. They're not showing you that 60% of that's going to a JV partner and the rest of it's going to marketing expenses. And they're not showing you your net numbers. It's very difficult to show that. But the folks that are, if you look at last week's episode and the download freebie that we gave you there of the Rogers Bell Curve, the people who get into sub 2 wraps are the people who are innovators and early adopters. And these are the people that, if this aligns with you, I want you to really pay attention here. Are you the person who's in this second rat race, who kind of stopped for a second and said, hold on, this Daniel and Grant guy is saying something interesting. So you kind of stop looking up from like, we're door knocking. Yeah, we're making calls. Right? And then you get up and you look and you're like, well, yeah, okay, so I see the cheese down there that everybody's going for, but there's this guy that like keeps grabbing this cheese from a drawer over there and putting it at the end. So how do I get to that drawer, right? That drawer is the sub 2 wrap. That's your real freedom. When you find this unlimited supply and replace your search for the drawer, replace your search for the maze cheese for the drawer cheese, that's when you start to really, truly understand what true freedom is. You know, guys, the crazy thing is the dream is the enemy. We don't realize that a lot of times, but the dream is the enemy. The dream of, now I'm a wholesaler and look, I'm door knocking and look at this call and blah, blah, blah. Go to your Facebook feed this afternoon, scroll through it, count how many Facebook feeds you're seeing where it is talking about somebody, they're showing look at me on the phones, they're showing me I'm door knocking today, they're showing all these activities, but they're not showing, hey, look, I just went to the title company and closed on this deal. They're not showing, hey, look, I just netted $48,000 on this deal, like Dees, who's one of our executives, he's netted $40,000 to $50,000 on 3 deals in this last 2 quarters. Net, right? But he's not flashing, he's doing. So the dream has become that enemy, and y'all's job now is to remove yourself, stand up for a second and say, hold on, this is what everybody else is. They're glorifying activities. They're not glorifying results. The result is that cheese. So why don't I go towards the drawer? So what I want to show you guys is this comparison between those two 60-deal years. One on the left is 60 houses transacted as a wholesale deal. You are grossing $900,000. It's a lot of money. Less your marketing, less your commissions, less your general and administrative expenses, less salaries, all that kind of stuff. And guess what? You close on a deal and you're unemployed the next day. Okay. On the right-hand side is a sub 2 wrap. On the wholesale side, I said, hey, I'm using the average of $15,000 per assignment. On the sub 2 wrap side, I'm saying, hey, I'm using an average of $12,000 down payment. I'm using $350 average cash flow, and I'm using an average of $25,000 worth of note equity, which means, hey, if you owe debt at $75,000 and somebody owes you a mortgage at $100,000 on that, you have note equity of 25 grand. Well, that 60 deals comes up to $720,000 of gross revenue up front, which actually our parentheses are in the wrong place here. That less marketing commissions, G&A, all that kind of stuff, that applies there. So take out all your upfront expenses from that 720, just like you on the left side took out your upfront expenses from the 900. But then guess what? You've got $252,000 of net passive annual cash flow. And you have $1.5 million of a starting net worth, which, by the way, when done with arbitrage, you're spending less, or you have a loan with less interest than you are receiving. Right? You're paying a loan at 4.5 that you sub-2'd. You're receiving a loan at 9.5. Guess what? Your net worth actually grows. You're starting at 1.5 million net worth. And then I'm just throwing out there that your income average is going to be somewhere in that 15 to 20 years, because you're going to have a lot of loans that go to 30, and you're going to sell a lot of notes and capture some of that 1.5, and you're going to have a lot of people that do refinance and do sell their house or whatever and give you these payoffs. But guess what? It was probably a month or so ago, 2 months ago, something like that. I didn't have any kind of idea. I guess it was a month ago. Any idea anything's going on? I'm making cash flow on a deal of $200 or $300. We got a payoff request. Oh, sweet. She's refinancing this deal. So I lost $200 a month in cash flow. Okay, that's $2,400 a year. But I got a check in the mail for $50,000 because that was the amount of equity that I had on this deal that I bought with no equity, but the underlying lien was at like 1%. It was on a loan mod. And her lien was at 9.5%, and we had room in it. And so my position grew over time. So I lost $200 a month, and I gained 50 grand. These payoff events are sweet, right? So here you've done 60 deals, one way or the other. Both of them, 60 deals. One side, you get 900 gross. The other side, you get 720 gross in upfront cash. Okay, we're only off by $180,000. We're going to subtract the same amount of commissions, the same amount of marketing, actually less marketing on the sub-2 rep side, but that's for another day. Same amount of G&A, same amount of salaries. So you might make 180 less net in the year, but you're adding $252,000 net passive annual cash flow, and you actually have a net worth. You've actually set up a business, not a job. So if you guys want this this illustration that I've used, there is a link to it. Ika, if you would also drop that into the comments for us. Ika is watching this right now, one of my fantastic and wonderful virtual assistants. So you can download this if you would like. Just follow the link. There's like a bit.ly link in the description of the video. There's going to be a bit.ly link that she drops down into the comments right now so that you guys can have that to reference back to. But I hope that this is impactful for you. I hope that you guys understand that, look, yes, I get it. You've been told that the dream is to be a real estate investor. You've been told that wholesaling is the thing that you need to do to get there. But what I'm trying to do here is show you, for all the reasons that you've been told that, you've been led into a second level of dream. And I kind of use that Inception analogy of, if you've ever seen Inception, there's this scene where Leonardo DiCaprio and the girl he wants to be an architect are in this cafe, right? And they're having some coffee. And, she's like, everything is crazy and they're talking and whatever. And then he asks her, he goes, let me ask you something. When you're in a dream, how can you tell that you're in a dream? She's like, I don't know. He's like, you never, he's like, the crazy thing is you're always just there. You never know where you came from, right? And she's like, well, yeah, I guess that's true. And he goes, so let me ask you this. How did you get here? She's like, well, we just came from the, and she couldn't name it. And that made her realize that she was in the dream right there. And then at that point in time, the entire city just blows up. Just things are just exploding and destroyed and all this kind of stuff. And her dream gets destroyed. But then guess what? She goes on to be the one that architects and creates the dreams for other people so that she can get the things that she needs. She becomes a masterful architect of that. And that's what I want to present to you guys right here, is I want to shatter this dream for you right now. I want to shatter this cafe scene for you right now. I want you to know that there is one more level deep for you to go where you really can get the freedom that you were looking for. Mark Monroe just commented here, closing on his first sub-2 next week. Learn from me. He's one of our Creative Accelerator members. He's getting $105,000 of spread right off the bat. It's incredible. And he's like 6 weeks into the program, right? That's awesome, Mark. That's so cool. I actually didn't know that. So that's really cool for me to hear that. So again, I want you guys to remember this. The dream is the enemy. Be looking for that next step. Destroy that dream. Become the architect of dreams. Find the cash flow and the passivity that you thought you were looking for in this first search and put it together so that you can truly have that wealth that you're looking for, right? And you can get there with no money because Daniel over at Propelio decided, hey, it would probably be a good idea if we got rid of all these guru freaking idiots that are going out there and talking about a bunch of crap that they don't know that sounds really good and charging people $50,000 for it. What if we gave it all to them for free, right? That's where the Propelio Academy came from. That's where Grant Teach Me Something comes from. He's got a true passion for seeing this community grow. And, in return, he has created the tools to help you get there, like Propelio, right? If you're not a member of Propelio, you need to be checking Propelio out. Propelio.com gives you every tool that you need, from leads to websites to good email addresses to all this stuff, comps, driving for dollars app, like all these things that you would have had to find 17 different ways to go down to find it. Don't think about it. He's already got that taken care of for you. What you need to do is you need to focus on getting in front of a person that can say yes to a piece of paper that makes you money. And I want that piece of paper to be a sub-2 contract, not assignable wholesales, so that you can take the middle of the day off and take your kids to the zoo. So that if you decide to take off for 6 months because you don't feel like working, you can. My business partner, Ronnie, just moved to Europe for 6 months last week. He just decided, hey, I think it'd be nice to go live in Europe for a while. So he's sending me photos of him doing his work from Scotland, and he's going to Ireland here in a couple of weeks because we have built a system that creates freedom. That's what I want to give to you guys too. So I hope that this is impactful for you. I really do. I'd like to hear y'all's feedback, some comments here. If you like how I teach, if you like what we're going down here, check me out, creativecashflow.com. Again, that thing that we went over today with the little images, you can download that for free from, there's a link in the description. There's a little bit.ly link, and Ika will have dropped that into the comments as well. Daniel, is there anything that you wanted to mention before we head out of here? I know I've kind of dominated this last like 20 minutes here, so feel free to put anything in you want, and my piece is done, and we'll head out from there.
No, man, it's all good. I truly appreciate it. I do want to address one question that came in from Ken. He said he didn't really understand the payoff concept. What Grant was referring to is, let's say he takes over a property subject to, and the underlying mortgage he takes over is $80,000. He turns around and sells it to somebody on a wrap mortgage, and that new mortgage is $100,000. Well, if that new mortgage sells or refinances, they're going to refinance or sell, and the payoff for that loan is going to be $100,000. The underlying mortgage is going to be $80,000. There's $20,000 difference. So whenever someone refis or sells their property that's sold on a wrap, you collect the equity that you have in your note. And the equity that you have in your note is the difference between your underlying mortgage and the new mortgage you created. So I hope that answered your question, Ken. I appreciate all of y'all out there watching. We had about 120 of y'all, 130 of y'all between Facebook, several Facebook locations and YouTube. So thank you all for joining in, tuning in, and watching. If you're getting value out of this, I truly hope that you are. I know that I certainly am. Please make sure you spread the word about this. Not too many people know about the Propelio podcast, don't know much about the YouTube channels. Go out there and let everybody know, hey man, there's this great place over here that's teaching some really cool stuff that you're not seeing just all over the internet. So help us with some shares. I'd have a lot of y'all reach out personally saying, hey, how can I help you, man? You've done so much for me. You've retired my family. You've done this, you've done that. I would have killed myself last month if it wasn't for Propelio. I've heard that more than once in private messages. You know what? You want to help? Share the word, spread the word. That's the best thing you can do for any one of you, for any one of us. And that goes for all of y'all too. Like for all of y'all that are watching, spreading the word is actually going to help you. And I think that one of the things that all y'all should go back and watch is the marketing video, or not the marketing, but the market cycles videos that Grant and I did together, because all of the stuff that you're learning right now is going to become even more prevalent over the next 18 months. So keep an eye on it. Pay attention to what's going on. Much love to each and every one of y'all from the Propelio crew. Thank you, Grant, for coming out here from creativecashflow.com. All of y'all, thank you. Check out Propelio.com for your software needs, for your real estate investing. Check out creativecashflow.com for your subject to investing education. Thank you all for joining in, and have a wonderful, fun day. Have a good one. Bye.
See ya.
All right.